Focus on Diversity with Troy Shaw.
Hello, I'm Troy Shaw, and welcome to the Focus on Diversity program, and welcome also to our season finale show, Focus on Diversity. Let's go directly into introducing our guests. First, we have Christopher Carter. He is the president of CCI. Our next guest is Sandy Schwartzberg. He is a partner with DeWitt, Ross, and Stevens. And as always, our good friend Robert Miranda. He is the editor of the Milwaukee Spanish Journal. Gentlemen, let's talk. That's what we're good at doing. Facing trial more than a year after allegations emerged about Duke University's lacrosse team, prosecutor Mike Nifong is going to trial as a defendant. The North Carolina State Bar has charged Nifong with several allegations of the state's rules of professional conduct, all tied to his handling of the lacrosse case. Now, we already know what the verdict is on that, but with Sandy being a lawyer, what was your take on this whole disbarment?
Well, if he did what they said he did, he deserves to be disbarred because the prosecutor in a criminal case has unique power, which is why the U.S. attorney case is so powerful, because the prosecutor decides whether a case is brought. And these boys or men from lacrosse, the Duke lacrosse team, have already suffered a tremendous injury just by having all of this happen to them. And what the worst part about it is, I think he started in good faith, but he quickly found out that it was a bogus case, and he lied to people to keep it going for his political purposes, or he was afraid to show his mistake. But Troy, there's a much larger issue here, which is prosecutorial discretion. Prosecutors in the United States have great discretion. They are the most powerful people in the criminal justice system. Mm-hmm. They can decide whether something is a misdemeanor, whether it's a felony. Do you get a jaywalking ticket, or you're disturbing the peace? They are the ones that decide whether your life can be ruined. Look at in Wisconsin what happened to Georgia Thompson with the travel scandal, which the appeals court broke down. But she still suffered a grievous injury. So if he did what he said he did, which he's now confessed to, mm-hmm. It's a well-deserved punishment, and it's a lesson that should be repeated.
But it also comes right on down to showcasing how prosecutors do sometimes utilize their power in the erroneous fashion. Robert, I mean, this is something that's been happening in Milwaukee. I mean, Michael McCann, maybe he needs to be brought up on some charges. What do you think?
And you're hitting right exactly what I was going to talk about. For over 30 years, Milwaukee's black community has seen some serious injury done to it by some of what we think are supposed to be Milwaukee's finest. And never in the history of Michael McCann has he seen a bad cop out there. And now we're finding out that this department is in need of some cleansing of some of the police that are in uniform walking around with a badge and a gun. Now I'm hoping that the rank and file of the Milwaukee Police Department will act on its own to clean its own out. I'm hoping they will, but in a sense, Chisholm is moving in the right direction with this creation of this new office where they're looking into police misconduct. But you know what? You're absolutely right. McCann, in those years that he was in office, letting these cops off with what they did, and then failing in the end on this whole Jude beating, I'm wondering if there's a statute of limitations on him.
Okay, now John Chisholm, he's a friend of yours, isn't he, Chris?
Not a friend of mine.
Well, what is your whole take on this whole Duke lacrosse?
Nifong should have been prosecuted, and now he's been disbarred, so that's a good thing. The Duke lacrosse players are going to receive compensation of a monetary piece. It's never going to bring back that year that they had to suffer through. Some of them are going back to school and are actually back on the Duke lacrosse team. Some of them are graduated, and there are pieces, they're starting to move on, they're starting to cleanse their life. To touch base with Robert was saying in regards to the Milwaukee Police Department and Michael McCann, one cop, all cops. Mm-hmm. They don't talk about each other unless you find a snitch that we had in the JFK, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, that's never going to come cleansing out in Milwaukee. But the Nifong case, that came to a nice fruition.
It really comes down to this. It really comes down to this. You know how many people of color, specifically African Americans, really care that these players were unjustly kind of like they don't really care at all. It's something that happens in the minority communities all the time. So we look at it and say, so what, is that a bad attitude to take there, Sandy?
I think it is a bad attitude. I think the problem is that every member of every race has to look at each one of these prosecutions and say, this matters. And if it's a black person being prosecuted, the white community needs to care about it, and they need to care about it a lot. If it's a white person, a white person's being prosecuted, the blacks need to care about it. We all need to unite and say we want fair prosecution, we want to rein in rogue prosecutors, and we want the charges to fit the crime. prosecutors overcharge all the time in this country to get plea bargains. And then, like the next case we're going to discuss, they punish people who don't make plea bargains. Prosecutorial power is out of control in the United States.
Okay, we got to move on to the next subject here. Expanding worries after authorities in New York recently announced a suspicious terrorist plot targeting Kennedy Airport. A security checkpoint in Lower Manhattan discovered a new threat, a radioactive truck. Although the truck was harmless, it raised concerns that many of the commercial trucks driving through New York daily could become instruments of terror. You know what? I don't want to move to New York. I'm sorry. I mean, you got radioactive trucks here. You got probably a car bomb over there. I mean,
look at the truck that was, and I apologize, it was the Oklahoma City bombing where the gentleman packed the truck full of fertilizer. That could happen anywhere. There are no checkpoints to test for what's inside that truck unless you go to a truck stop and they've got the weights and the police department is there. But that could happen anywhere, anytime, and that's a scary
thought. It is a scary proposition, but Robert, I mean, what is up with New York? It's like the microcosm of things such as this happening.
Well, New York is full of immigrants. Right?
Well, yeah, it was. I don't know if we want to use that as a standard.
And of course, we got to highlight all the problems that exist in New York because all these immigrants are coming in causing all these problems. Right? There's no other city in the country that's experiencing problems. It's just New York, right?
Well, yeah.
But the problem here is that again, it's all this fear mongering that's going on. So every little incident becomes a concern for terrorism. It's like Chris just said. You had that bombing that happened in Oklahoma. It was one of our own that did it. And after the bombing, you didn't have this kind of fear-mongering that went on all over the place. You know, in the 60s, we had a church that was blown up in Selma where 4 little young black girls were murdered by the Ku Klux Klan. And you didn't have this tremendous fear-mongering going on. No, this is a need for the Bush administration, for the right-wings, neocons in this country to continue to fear-monger the population so that they continue to push this failed policy of fighting terrorism and continuing this failed war. This is all a
I know he's going to throw that
job.
in there. Sandy, we got to end this relatively quickly. Can you give me a quick summation of your thoughts on this?
New York is the jewel in the crown of America, according to everybody else in the world, so it's going to be the chief target.
Well, there you go. And when we come back, we're going to continue this hardcore discussion on diversity. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Since 1985, Sprecher Brewing Company has been committed to brewing a diverse variety of quality beers and sodas. Along with their commitment to a diverse product, they also have a strong commitment to diversity. Sprecher Brewing Company is proud to be a sponsor of the Focus on Diversity program. We are honored to participate in Milwaukee's great brewing tradition, and we're grateful for the opportunity to present our best to you.